Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ohio State Buckeyes call-in show. I am your host, Ryan Stano. Unfortunately, Garrison was not able to make it. He had an emergency that unfortunately just happened, so he will be missing from today's show. Um, but that's okay. We still have a good show for you. Just a couple things that I want to go ahead and talk about up front here, and then I'd like to go ahead and take you guys' calls as usual, and go and kind of go from there. So first off, um, first thing that I'm going to talk about is Ohio State was able to get a couple of recruits since we last spoke. So, um, Ohio State was able to get defensive lineman Kari Wilder. He was one of them. He's a four-star defensive back. I'm sorry, defensive lineman, and he is someone who Ohio State, is just happy to have. They're happy to have him in there. He's actually from the state of California. He chose Ohio State over UCLA, as well as some other Ohio State. I mean, eh, he chose Ohio State over some other programs as well, but UCLA was the main program that he chose them over. Um, and even though he's not necessarily the highest ranked recruit, like he's pretty low on that on the 247 Sports composite ranking. That doesn't mean that he's not a good recruit that Ohio State doesn't think that they can go ahead and develop. He is a player that Ohio State wants to keep on the roster. Larry Johnson is finally on the board. Fans have been worried about Larry Johnson's recruiting, and it's not something that has gone super well. I would say he just hasn't been able to. Um, Quite frankly, he just hasn't been able to do what is needed to do. There haven't been a lot of high level recruits that he's brought in the last few years. Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau were the last. Um, they were truly the last great, five-star recruits that they'd gone ahead and brought in. So um, it's something that Ohio State has to work through. There's still a few guys out there on the board as far as the defensive line is concerned that they could land. Luke Waffle being at the top of the list, and they're confident that they can have a relatively full defensive line class, even though Wilder's the first one. He's an edge guy, although he can play both inside and out because of his size. Like he's not limited to just playing um, outside on the edge, and Ohio State is definitely going to do whatever they think is best in terms of his development and in terms of who they have with the rest of their roster. That's the best way for them to go ahead and kind of move forward with the defensive line. I'll go ahead and put the call-in chat here, the call-in link here in the chat. That way you guys can go ahead and give me questions, comments, concerns, anything like that. But again, Ohio State has some defensive line recruits that they can still grab. And in fact, there are a couple, based off of Twitter, there's more than a few guys who are looking to commit here in the next 24 hours or so. In fact, there's multiple recruits. So we don't know who those guys are yet. There's some speculation that it, could be Sincere Johnson, could be Luke Waffle. My hope personally is that it's Felix Ojo and Sabian Hyder, but I don't think that's necessarily realistic. So that's just something that Ohio State, we'll, as Ohio State fans, we'll go ahead and find out. If anything breaks here during the show, I'll certainly let you guys know. But that was the main recruiting piece that happened since me and Garrison spoke with you guys on Monday. Another piece of news that happened is Ohio State actually, Ross Bjork specifically talked about how the new House settlement is going to affect the Ohio State football program. And in fact, he talked today about how there's going to be revenue sharing with 4 sports. And Ohio State's going to be one of them. So, Ohio State, the football program, the men's and women's basketball program, and women's volleyball. Those are the 4 sports that they're looking to have revenue sharing for this year. Now that will be reassessed after this year, but right now those are the 4 that Bjork's committing towards. So that's a pool of about 18.5 million that'll get shared between those 4. Now it's probably not going to get shared evenly, but those are the 4 sports he mentioned. The football program is probably going to be the one that gets most of the money, but we don't know. That would be my guess, but again, that'll be something that is determined down the line. We do have our first caller, so I'll go ahead and bring him up.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing. What's up? How y'all doing today?
Doing okay, doing okay. Garrison had a little bit of a family emergency, so he can't make it tonight. But what do you got for me?
Uh, on S- on Sunday I was on a call-in show. Then a Buckeye fan had popped up, and he told us his name is Big Mike, and then we asked him some questions the about is he nervous about the Texas game? He told me, Johnny, and some of the Michigan fella that they're gonna lose the same way that Oregon lost in the Rose Bowl. And I don't think that I don't think that's going to happen for 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 one thing. Y'all lost for the for yeah, 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 for one thing y'all lost your whole defensive line.
Yes, that's true.
The 4 new
Um,
players, they wasn't even starters, and the, the, the spring game, they couldn't they couldn't even stop the run against their own running backs. So the so right now that's telling me that they might not be able to stop but Texas, they are returning some running backs that have some college football experience. The 2 new guys, the young guy, don't have no experience compared to Junkins and Hinder and Travion.
sure.
They not yeah.
Well, I'll say this: I do not expect the opening game against Texas to go the way of the Oregon game. That would be surprising to me. I would love it. Don't get me wrong; I would love that. But I do not think it's going to be a blowout where Ohio State just kind of takes over in the first half and never
They
relinquishes the lead.
they
That would be
working.
surprising to me.
Y'all got a new quarterback.
We do. New quarterback. You mentioned the defensive line. That's certainly a concern. Um, they
The
replace a lot of talent.
the offensive line,
The
they haven't
offensive
they can't
line,
they
I'm
can't
not as concerned
stay.
about.
Oh yeah, but we all know that. But can they stay healthy as a unit? The current starters, but can they start week 1 and start against with Michigan the same 5 guys with 0 injuries? Cause that's another problem. Some the other school they talking about, the Penn State folks. They talking about they might have to suffer some injuries again, just like they did the past 2 seasons. But it's not their fault.
I think that the offensive line should be able to stay healthy. The 2 big injuries that they had were kind of freak injuries. I mean, Josh Simmons, like it was just a random. I mean, it was just a knee injury that wasn't. It was a cartilage injury, and then McLaughlin just tore his Achilles during practice. So those are freak injuries that don't typically happen. The rest of their guys, did they feel good about? And because of those injuries, they added a lot of depth to the offensive line. Like those, a lot of the guys who are starting this year, they weren't expecting to play last year because of McLaughlin and Simmons and some of the other guys that they had. So four of the five guys who are going to be starting on the offensive line this year, they
Y'all
all had
lost three
significant playing
guys.
time
They
last year.
all they all was projected a first round because they got injured. The only one that made it to the first round selection was
Donovan Jackson.
Donovan Jackson. Okay, Seth. He was projected to be the first center off the board until he got injured, and he was supposed to be the second tackle, the first tackle off the board, but Josh got injured, so.
Yeah, but now that they have, because they suffered those injuries, um, they were able to get Luke Montgomery some rotation play last year. Carson Hinsman reemerged. He's going to be the starting center. Um,
He was
they
starting the center, but he lost his job this time last year.
Well, because they brought in the guy who ended up winning the award for best center in the country. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
tough to do. So,
yeah.
but then Ciroveld played a lot as well. Tegra Shabola played a lot. So they got some experience out
What
there.
about the dude on the right because he had some problems, but
What
as a
they'll prob
starter.
what they'll probably do is they'll put Ciroveld at right tackle, even though he played guard last year, and they'll he seems to, Ohio State seems to think he's one of their five best offensive linemen, so they want him to get on the field.
Who did the center play before he went back to the center?
He was
Who?
he ended up moving to left guard because they shifted Donovan Jackson to left tackle once Simmons went down. So and he played. I mean, Hinsman was a natural
No,
guard. That's what he
no,
was recruited
no,
out of high school.
no. I'm talking about the first game. He played the first game. The center.
Hinsman did not play in the first game. The center, Seth McLaughlin, was the center for the entire season until he got hurt. So he was the
Oh,
starting center. Yeah.
oh, I thought that they moved him to left
No,
before the injury.
no. He was the starting center the whole time. Until like I said, until he got hurt, and then Hinsman slid in there and ended up
No,
being.
I was talking about Hinsman. I thought that he played all the time. He, well, I got another question. So
Okay.
Hinsman, but did he come out of the high school as a center, or as soon as he got to Ryan Day, they asked him to play center. Did they ask him to play center, or he
So he
was
was actually he came out of high school as he was a guard, and he was a really
yeah
good guard, and that's what he played last year for. They wanted him to try out at guard last year, and then they realized he was probably best used as a center. So he started
yeah
last year as a center. He had some problems, and then they brought in McLaughlin, and there was just no spot on the offensive line for him, which all Ohio State fans questioned to begin with because he should have been put at guard considering he was a natural guard to start, and then he was put at left guard for a couple games, and then once McLaughlin went down, then they had to shift him back to center, and he played pretty well after that. And so he's expected to play pretty well this year. The offensive line's not necessarily a concern. You did mention the running backs though. C.J. Donaldson and James Peoples are going to be the two running backs. Now they're not going to be as
yeah
good as Henderson and Judkins. Like that's hard to
yeah
expect. But
yeah.
Donaldson does have 11 rushing touchdowns in each of the last 2 years. And they do like James Peoples a lot. So I expect the running game to still be fine, especially because the offensive line is going to be pretty good. But they're not going to be it's not going to be quite as dynamic.
Oh,
But
so
hopefully
do
the
you
quarterback
think
can do it.
that? So, but do you think that one of those guys is similar. The Chip Trainer and the other guy that is similar to Xavier Johnson,
I don't think
22
so. I think
fellas.
yeah, I don't think so. I think these guys are better than both of those guys.
What
Uh,
happened to those two?
Chip transferred to Kentucky, and I think actually he might have played at UNLV either this year. Yeah, I think this might be his last year. He got 6 years. Xavier moved on. He's not doing any doing anything football related now. I don't think. Um,
He's in the NFL.
no, he's not in the NFL. He might be in the UFL for all I know.
Oh,
But that's Xavier really moved there, and he
he
wasn't even
had
really a starter.
speed.
They used his spot.
He he had speed though.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but they only put him in there at running back a few times when they had guys keep going down. Hopefully that's not a problem anymore. They seem relatively healthy in the running back space.
I know. I know in that Georgia game he played it. He played it much. He played it good enough to earn the earn the earn that number two spot. But I guess not in Ryan Day's eye because they lost.
Well, Johnson was mainly a wide receiver. That's what he played in that Georgia game. He was a wide
Yeah.
receiver. They would only shift him over to running back occasionally.
Yeah.
So, but he was a solid guy. Um, I have
What's
one
up
question.
with what's up with Notre Dame? They just lost two major players and their recruits to Michigan. What's up with that? What's up with them?
I don't know. Um, Maybe some of the settlement has
And,
to do with that.
but and they saying that the player that they got on Tuesday night, they told they 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 talk about he could be the next Mason Graham with longer arms, with longer arms.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hold off on that. I think that's too lofty of a comparison. Um, Graham was certainly very good, and it's hard to project someone to be quite that good as a freshman. But we'll see. You never know. I
But
mean,
that's what, that's what the D line coach and the defensive coordinator they saying that, and everybody it's on the hype train now.
of course, they're gonna talk up the guy they just signed, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what
what do
was your
you?
question?
Well, yeah, my question for you is now that the court appearances are done for Michigan, and something's going to happen within the next 30 to 90 days, what do you think the penalties will be?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think that if they wanted to do some bow bands, they would had done this last year. But I don't. But I I I think that with Michigan, the so-called suspension that Michigan had put out, I think they might just accept that. They might just
So
accept.
you think that just a two-game suspension for Sharon Moore, when they don't even suspend him for the opening or the game against Oklahoma, you think that's going to be enough for the NCAA?
Might so well. Maybe or they could do more. They could do four, but start after the two games. But
I think I don't think it'll be a. I don't think they're going to vacate the national championship. I don't think that's in the cards, which is a bummer.
they don't have the power to do that.
They do, but I don't think they're going to do it. Um, I think it'll probably be something like a. I could see somewhere between a 8 to 10 game suspension for more, some scholarship reductions, and probation. But I think that's probably the worst that it would be. I
The
think the
only
best.
thing the Spartans is looking for the recruiting suspensions and scholarships was taken away. But that's all they really want. But some of your fan base, they looking they looking for the same hammer that they got that one year. They're looking for that same hammer, the same hammer that they got that one year. They want us to get it to make it even, I guess.
They do. Again, I don't think it's quite going to go that far. Um,
Because but they don't have the power to do that. But they don't give out the type of punishments no more.
well, they do have the power to do it, but you're right. They don't typically give those types of punishments out. Um, they are going to have to figure out to do what I still think the most logical penalties are going to be a
So what
probably
about
six or
what
seven game
about the
suspension.
former staff? They still gonna get let's say that the punishments is based on the former staff. Would that sound better?
No, because the former staff's not coming back anyway. Jim Harbaugh's never
Yeah,
coming back. He's got a big show cause.
yeah.
Um, Partridge ain't coming back. Like all of those guys are never coming back anyway. And clearly, there seems to be some systemic issues. So they need to punish the current team, and Moore was part of that as well. But I don't think
Yeah,
it's going to be quite the hammer that a lot of Ohio State fans want. I'll say that.
insurance. Yeah. I was so. How do you feel about they lost in court now with the house, the other court?
No, I mean no one lost in court yet.
They lost in court. The revenue share they lost.
Oh, you talking about the NCAA?
Yeah.
That wasn't losing; it was a settlement. That was the best that they could do. Um, I am interested to see how they are going to further um, enforce the NIL
I
deals that go through the Go
I
NIL program.
I do know the last two seasons that my team they tried to keep some of their best juniors that they couldn't but since the house settlement is good to go. They probably can use the extra money to prevent themselves from having a down year like that again.
It'll be interesting to see how each university allocates the money because
I do
you know
know
you have
that the small schools they probably would use that to go get some players some players out of the high school that they probably will never have what access they used to never have what access to. But now since the house settlement or the rules it it changing, they get to have the access the players that they normally wouldn't have the access to now.
yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting how each university divvies up that pool of NIL money because this year the entire athletic departments for everybody they only get to share $20.5 million. Now programs can spend more than that on their own NIL collectives or through revenue sharing. So the bigger programs like Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, all those programs, they're going to have an opportunity to still sign players, recruits and transfers from other schools using collective money from the NIL Go program. But but apparently you have to submit a plan, and if the NIL Go, and apparently they're audited by one of the big four accounting
They
companies, and if
said
they don't like what that
the
happens, they may not
AD
approve it.
he came out and said that the Michigan football team they're gonna be beginning about them between 70 to 75. The football the rest of the sports that they getting the 5% or maybe 10, and the men's and girls the basketball they getting about 20. They getting about okay, 15%. And I do know the numbers for football. It's gonna be about 13.5 million. But that's for the University
Hmm.
of Michigan. For your school, they could do more or less.
Ohio State, what they're going to do is they have, so it's the athletic director did not say specifically how much of that percentage they are going to give to the football program. He did say that the football program is going to be one of the four sports that participate in revenue sharing for the other 18.5 million that they've got. That the
I
men's and the
do know
women's
what
basketball.
I do know that the Spartans they gonna the most of the money they probably use that toward their basketball program. So their basketball program is way better than the football program history wise.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. That's again, we'll learn a lot next year on how each program decides to run their quote unquote new NIL programs now that the House settlement has
How do
defined numbers.
you worry about Arch Manning?
No,
Uh,
no, not at all. I think the
uh,
defense will be fine, but we'll see. Um, well, Tim, it's good talking to you. Uh, got a promo I got to run here for a second, so
yeah.
we'll talk to you next week, I'm sure, and I'm sure
But,
Garrison will be back for
but,
that as well.
but let me tell everybody where y'all can find me at.
Yeah,
Y'all can find me on YouTube. The name of my show is called the Thunder Redman Football Show, and I currently got 117 subscribers, and tomorrow on my channel at 6 o'clock. Me and another YouTuber, and the name of the other YouTuber channel is called College Football with Sam. We doing a YouTube live stream collab
nice, nice. Yeah,
at
people
six
can
o'clock tomorrow.
yeah, people can check that out if they're looking for intel on that team up north. So, good to see you, Tim. We'll talk to you next week.
We might be talking about the Penn State too, so
Yeah, yeah. We'll check that out. All right, see you, Tim.
because they rivals. Oh, all right.
Of course. See you. Um, so, before I go ahead and give me some other thoughts on some other things that happened with the Ohio State program here recently. There's a decent amount that has happened here. So before we do that, let me go ahead and bring up something else for you guys. So here, while I go ahead and do this, so we have some great sponsorships through the Voice of College Football. And if you would like to be a part of that, you can go ahead and see some things here on the screen. I know Garrison typically goes ahead and shares this with you guys for most of our shows, but since he's not here, I will go ahead and share this with you as well. So, get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. See what our partner on the screen has to say about our sponsorship experience. We had a great experience sponsoring, the channel, the Team Up North channel over the past season. Social media and web engagement has gone up since we started the campaign, and we've acquired some new clients as a result of the sponsorship. If you are interested in discussing how you can be a part of our channel, please reach out to us at sponsorships@vocfb.com today. So, with everything else that has gone on here with the Buckeyes, there are some other things that I'd like to I'd like to still talk about. So, we talked about Ross Bjork talking about how the new um how the new um NIL money is going to work and how all of that is going to be divvied up. So you know, he hasn't specifically given any indication as far as how much money the Ohio State football program is going to get through the NIL revenue sharing. The revenue sharing itself is only going to be shared through 4 sports right now. It's going to be the football program and the men's, women's basketball programs, as well as women's volleyball. And they're going to share a pool of about $18.5 million. The $20.5 million through the NIL, that's for the entire athletic department, and that is going to be split through 36 different sports. Now, I highly doubt all 36 sports are going to get NIL money. I don't think that's something that is feasible. What I do think is feasible is the Ohio State football program is probably going to get at least 50% of that money. So that's going to be $10.5 million. My guess is the percentages are going to be closer to about 60%. Because with the new NIL Go program, they can still sign prospects using NIL money from other boosters. Like the same collective that can still be used to, the current existing collectives, they can help funnel that money through that Buckeye sports group that will actually pay the athletes directly. They can still bring in money, additional money to help fund that. Now, how much money that's going to be, I don't know. But we know Ohio State football fans have been donating to the program pretty consistently since NIL was basically legal. And to say that Ohio State football fans helped get the team to the national championship last year, I don't think that that's an outrageous statement, because the donations that they made through various NIL collectives allowed the Buckeyes to have enough money to keep the current roster intact, to bring in guys like Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, Seth McLaughlin, like all of these impactful transfers that helped them get that run to the national championship. So, we'll see how this goes moving forward. Ross Bjork has been talking about this for a while, as far as, this new House settlement. I mean, they thought it was going to get approved in April, so they've had plenty of time to figure out what they were going to do on this, and I think that they're going to come out prepared, and they're probably going to be coming out prepared more than a lot of other a lot of other football programs across the country. Ross Bjork has been in lockstep with Ryan Day as to what he wants to accomplish with the program, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how other programs manage their money, because I think Ohio State's going to be fine. I think Ohio State's going to be fine with it. Ryan Day has said many, many times that the program is not going to recruit solely on NIL money. Like, they are going to only deal with NIL money when it comes to the top prospects. And, that doesn't mean that not all recruits are going to get NIL money, or all current players are going to get NIL money. They definitely are. But they are going to still make the focal point of selling recruits on Ohio State, the tradition, the program history as far as winning national championships, developing players to the next level, to the NFL. That's what they're still going to go ahead and sell recruits on and NIL was kind of going to be secondary, or really even tertiary. So that's what I think is going to keep happening. I don't think this change in NIL rules is going to hurt Ohio State in any way. I don't think that they're going to be. I don't think that they're going to be any worse off. I don't really think they're going to be that much better off either. Like, I know there's some opinions out there that this settlement is only going to make things easier for Ohio State and the bigger programs to go ahead and dominate college football. But that doesn't mean that other programs can't still compete. Like, I do think that's what's going to happen. And I can't say that this is like a runaway good thing for Ohio State, because anytime there's more money in the sport, that just complicates things. So we'll see how things go with that. And I have a lot of faith that they're going to go ahead and be able to keep running this train with the NIL money that they have from both the NIL collective and the salary. It's essentially a salary cap, the salary cap of NIL money that they're going to go ahead and split throughout all the sports. Looks like we've got our next caller, so I will go ahead and bring them in. Hey there, who am I speaking with? Oh, okay. We'll go ahead and take you out then. Okay. Back to what I was saying. So, there's something else I want to talk about, and it's referring to Ohio State recruiting. So, the Ohio State football program currently has the fourth best recruiting class in the country. They got passed up by Clemson a couple days ago, although I haven't checked the team composite ranking since Wilder was added. And actually, they've jumped up to second, according to 247 Sports. So they're second. They went ahead and jumped Notre Dame. And they're still only behind USC, which has had the number one recruiting class for most of the year. They've got 28 recruits. Like, they've got a full class. I'm not entirely sure how many prospects they are expecting to sign in the 2026 class, but I can't imagine it's that many more. And Ohio State's got 15. So, they're probably going to take 10, 11, maybe 12 more guys. They still have more five-star recruits than anybody else in the class. Like, no one else has more five-star recruits than they do. And they still got a chance to add a couple more. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, they're waiting. We're awaiting word on multiple prospects who have committed. So, if they get 2 or 3 guys in the next 24 hours, that'll raise them up to 17 or 18 commits for the 2026 class. And they're shaping up to have a pretty darn good class. Now, they still have a lot of work to do to get some of the five-star guys that they're looking at, specific to Felix Ojo, Savion Hyder, Tyler Atkinson. Those are the kinds of guys that they are hoping to land. Now, we'll see if they're able to. The 2 5-star recruits that they have right now, Chris Henry Jr. and Blaine Bradford, are both very good. And adding a couple more 5-star recruits certainly wouldn't hurt. But they're perfectly content with just adding more 4-star recruits and and bringing in some more in-state kids. As we've talked, both me and Garrison have talked about, Ohio State has committed to get the best kids in the state of Ohio pretty much every year. Now, this year in Ohio, it's a little bit down in terms of the overall talent. Like, you don't have the high-end talent that the state has produced in the past. Like, there's not a whole lot of there's not really any 5-star prospects from the state of Ohio, which is unusual because this is usually a top 5 state in terms of producing high school talent. Whatever they don't get from this specific class, they'll probably just fill in with the transfer portal once that goes ahead and once that goes ahead and starts back up again. So I think the 2026 class is going to be interesting as far as what Ryan Day is able to bring in. And right now, things look good. So I I still hesitate to think that they're going to go ahead and win a recruiting national championship and jump USC for that top class. But you never know. If they land one or two more of these 5-star kids, I don't see anyone signing more than 4 or 5-star recruits in this class. That would be incredible. And then they would just be filling around the edges at some positions that they don't even necessarily need in terms of immediate depth. They can go ahead and fill in places like wide receiver or running back, kind of fill in the gaps where they can afford to have some lower rated 4-star recruits or maybe even some higher rated 3-star recruits. So we'll see how it shakes out. And I'm very, very curious to learn who the names are that are supposed to be committing in the next couple days. But it does look like we've got another call here. I will go ahead and bring them in. That's what I thought was going to happen. So back to the recruiting, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. There's one other thing that I want to bring to your guys' attention, and specific to Larry Johnson. I know I talked about getting Kari Weidler here at the top of the show, and it's the first defensive line recruit that Ohio State's been able to land this cycle, which is very surprising considering, what their track record has been. So, both me and Garrison have expressed concerns about Johnson's recruiting, his ability to get on the recruiting trail, his energy level in doing so, and his commitment. I think regardless of what happens and how he finishes out this class, whether he's able to get, a guy like Luke Waffle, and some other defensive line recruits that they have on their board right now, they are going to have to figure out a replacement, because it seems like when he committed to coaching this year that it was with the understanding this is going to be his last year. So I don't know who, we've tossed back a few names as who we would think might be candidates to take the job once Larry does go ahead and move on, whether he retires or he is let go. I can't imagine he'd ever be let go. It'd be more of a forced retirement, if anything. But that's something Ohio State definitely needs to plan for. And the last thing I wanted to close the show with today here is, Ross Bjork's press conference. I didn't see anything specific to the softball program. I know you mentioned that, Charles. A lot of at least what I saw from the press conference specific to the football program, was talking about the NIL money, how that was all going to get divvied up, the revenue sharing, and whether or not he was going to advocate for Ohio State to schedule tough non-conference games anymore. He essentially said they're going to wait to see what the committee does. And if all the committee cares about are the amount of losses you have, then they might reevaluate scheduling tough games. Or if the committee actually decides that strength of schedule matters, then they will continue to schedule those. The problem with that logic is the committee changes every single year. So you're not going to get that same consistency from year to year. And that's part of the formula that the committee wanted to have. But back to the last thing, like I said, I wanted to get to before we wrap up the show, is the retirement of Jerry Emig. And I know me and Garrison alluded to this a couple weeks ago when the rumors started flying out. There was no official word on what had happened with Jerry, but now he has gone ahead and retired. It's unclear if this is an actual retirement or if this is a kind of a forced retirement kind of deal. We'll see. Regardless, he did a pretty good job for a long time for Ohio State. That's pretty much all you can ask for. I'll be interested to see who they bring in to replace him, and whether or not that is someone who will campaign a little bit more on the in advocacy for some of the players for individual awards. Excuse me. That didn't really happen in past years, specific to some Heisman campaigns. there wasn't really a whole lot of campaigning for a Chase Young or a Justin Fields or a Marvin Harrison Jr. Guys who really had a shot to win the Heisman. There wasn't a whole lot of pushing when it came from Ohio State. So it would be interesting to see if the new communications person does that. I know he was mainly the communications professional, not necessarily had a whole lot to do with marketing, but with that job, they kind of interconnect. So I know both me and Garrison are going to be very interested to see what happens with that. And we'll certainly talk about that when that happens. But for now, we'll go ahead and end the show there. We will be back on Monday. I'm assuming Garrison will be back by then. I don't know about his family situation. I'll go ahead and talk to him. But expect to have us both there. As far as the timing goes, I do have a conflict, later, so we'll probably end up starting the show about a half hour earlier. It'll probably be at 7:30 as opposed to 8:30 due to some conflicts with my day job. But that is when we will be there for the primetime live show. And again, last thing I'll say, if you want to join us and help support the content we make at the Voice of College Football, the memberships are scrolling on the screen. We love the members that we have. They help us be able to create the content that you love seeing on this channel and all of our channels across the Voice of College Football. So you can see the memberships there. The Block O Club, JT wasn't short, we don't give a damn. Each of those memberships give you a different level of access to the content we create, exclusive interviews that we have with people. So if you're so inclined, please donate. All of that goes 100% to the content that we're able to create. Other than that, that's all I got. We will see you guys on Monday, like I said, at 7:30. OH, IO.